Welcome to the Trailblazers podcast, where bold journeys meet real, meaningful conversations with people who are creating impact in their own unique way. Today's episode is something I've been really looking forward to. We're talking about workation and the future of work, not just as ideas, but as something that's actually playing out in real life. I'm joined by Stefan Dietz, a global speaker from Germany, and he's an entrepreneur who's been working closely with leaders and organizations across the world, helping them rethink how work really fits into life. What I really appreciate about Stefan's work is it's practical, it's real, and it's deeply human. He's been enabling people to move away from very structured, traditional ways of working and instead create something that feels more flexible, more intentional, and honestly more aligned with who they are. From working across different parts of the world to helping professionals build location-independent careers to guiding organizations toward more trust-based cultures, he's actually living and shaping what the future of work can look like. It's about building a life that feels meaningful, a life where work supports you and not the other way around. If this is something you've been thinking about, even in a small way, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. So stay tuned and welcome to the Trailblazers podcast. Welcome to the Trailblazers podcast. This is a space where we talk to people who are not just following their path, but creating their own in their own unique way. And honestly, today's conversation is really going to, interest you. It's going to inspire you because today's guest is going to be Stefan Dietz. He's joining us from Germany, and I had this amazing opportunity to meet him at the Professional Speaker Summit in Chennai this year. And interestingly, we ended up talking a lot about how he made his journey very inspiring and very interesting because he takes work to his vacation and vice versa. So we're going to learn more about his tips and tricks and his interesting journey, how he ended up doing that. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Before we get into the deep dive conversation, I would love to share with you a quick intro about Stefan. He's an entrepreneur, a speaker, an author, a globe trekker, like I mentioned, and what he calls a work explorer. And I love that. And I would love to learn more about it. Yeah. So without any further delay, I would like you to meet Stefan Dietz. Thank you so much, Stefan, for joining us from Germany. A pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure for me to be with you, and I'm really happy to share a few ideas and experiences with you.
That's awesome. And I know very soon the audience will realize no matter the success about what Stefan has reached, the amount of humbleness he carries with him and the groundedness that he carries with him is simply amazing. Okay. And when I first met him, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, like, he's too humble. I mean, too grounded that I was like, wow. I mean, like, how can he be so composed having done so many things in life? But that is the nature of Stefan. So thank you so much, Stefan, for that. So, Stefan, I would like to jump right into the conversation. The first question that comes to my mind is whenever I reach out to you, either you probably are in Germany or in Europe or in Asia. And typically you're working. And most interesting thing that you keep exploring is about future of work. So how did you come about this workation concept? Tell me about it.
Well, that's of course a very long story, but it started with a conference. So I think we will reach the topic of curiosity because I learned this is one of my most important motivations, and it's sometimes hard because if you have a brain which is always asking you questions and trying to do something new, that's quite hard to get your stuff done, of course. But from that curiosity, I took part in a conference in Berlin, I think 12 years ago, from digital nomads. And it was a lot of 24 years old digital nomads. They have their backpacking tour around the world, and they all dreamed on living a life as a travel blogger. And no one of them had in mind to do a normal job in a company with 9 to 5 work. And I was really astonished on that. I was the only older than 40 years old guy in that 50 people on 24 years old. And I said, wow, what the hell are they thinking of? Can't they do a normal work? And my second idea was, hey, that's a great idea. When I would be 24 again or 20, I would like to do such a life. And then this idea developed, and I started to go for a week, for example, that time to Mallorca, taking my computer and trying out, is it possible to work remotely from a place which I like to be, at the beach, for example. And then I tried this years and years more, and discovered that there are a lot of companies working completely remotely. And of course, that worked. And I discovered this long before COVID. And so I wrote a book on those experiences, and I really learned to love this style of life, because I can work wherever I have good internet, and I have all my staff with me, and I can experience another circumstances. I can do my work during the day, and then I can go to the beach, or the other way around. If I'm in Asia with a few hours before, I can go to the beach. I can have a massage. I can have a breakfast at the beach. And when my guys in Europe wake up, I'm already I have a holiday day behind me. So it's a great way to work, and a great training to show people that you can work wherever you want if you are able to manage yourself.
That's quite interesting, and I'm sure you might have had a journey before you were able to completely switch and plan in such a way that there are no breaks for your company. I know you're an entrepreneur. You travel around the world, you do
Mhm.
workshops, and you speak on stages and all of that. But to plan in such a way without causing any hindrance to the family and to your office staff, it must have been quite a
Mhm.
journey to get there, right? Get it to an autopilot.
Of course, that's a longer development. And the reality is, so when we met and we talked more often, and um, I just have to give a little bit of that back, what you introduced to me, because it was such a great conversation, and you give me such a warm welcome when I reached out for probably taking part in the Chennai
Right.
Speaker Summit. That was great, and it was a vice versa energy. So that's your part too. um, well, so when we talked to each other, then we had one talk. Then I was in Thailand. The next one I was in Vietnam, and then I came to you to Chennai. But the truth, of course, is if you put it through the whole year, then there is quite a lot of time. I'm staying at my home with my family. Like now, I'm in my home office. I like to work from here. I have a lot of periods where I'm working with my customers, going for workshops in Germany, and I have some travel times, which is some in the last years that was a lot of vacation. I tested a lot of beaches to work from the beach because I love that, and it will that will increase. Traveling just to discover interesting other countries. So I've been to Ghana, for example, to find out more about remote work, about migration strategies. I was in Vietnam to find out how is it possible to work from there, how is the society developing. So it's a good mix, but it's not the way like people often tell me, you're always somewhere else. That's only the impression. Of course, I talk more about when I'm at the beach somewhere than when I'm in my home office, of course. But it needs a balance. That works because our children are more than 23 and 25. So it's just my wife and me. And we have a good balance together, that I like to be here and I like to be to go out again. And for her, that's a quite good solution too, because she doesn't like the same speed of traveling. So we are very different in that way, and we can um, it's a very nice way we deal with that in the moment. Yeah, but you asked for the team. Of course, that's the second one. The one base, of course, is that we organized our whole IT and our whole business structure 10 years ago in a cloud-based way. So it's technically easy to work from different places. And of course, it's a question of developing a working culture in the team. So in our situation, I'm the most traveling employee as the boss of the company and the founder of the company. And part of my team started very remote friendly, and others started just with the attitude of going to the office every day. And now we get more and more flexible. But of course, that's a process.
That's interesting. So, I know that you had a very different, childhood story, and you had some setbacks
Mhm,
before you discovered your passion and the way you started your company and all of that.
mhm,
Do you want to share a little bit about your
mhm.
childhood story and how you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah, yeah, that's quite so. Afterwards, when you look back, you just recognize how big the changes have been. I was born on a farm in a rural area in Germany, and traditionally, if you're the oldest son, it's clear that your path of life is already written. You have to follow your parents in taking over the farm and getting a farmer. And I have one sister that was uh, early clear that she hasn't any attitude to do something like the farm. So for me, that was the first way. So I really left school and started an education as a farmer. I did my studies in farming, but I recognized quite early that's not the only not what's calling me. So I really started very early with engagements in youth politics for rural areas. Did a lot of seminars on creativity, on entrepreneurship, and things like that in the agricultural area. And then so I started, I think, with 20 years to give my first seminars for farmers. So from today, it was very early, yeah, visible that I will go in another direction. But it took a lot of years until I really get my own situation free of that. Yeah, of that duty, of that felt duty to follow the parents' trail and to get freedom of that to go my own way. That took quite a lot of years, and it was yeah, step by step getting more freedom, starting my own company, then leaving the farm as a place where I still lived when I already started a small business with which dealt with development of villages and regions, and a second business with the seminars for farmers. And then those both topics developed, and today these are my two consulting companies. In the one, we're still doing regional development in
Okay.
Germany, in that part of Germany, with 7 8 employees. I'm still there, the owner, founder, and the CEO, but I'm not really in the normal business because I have a great team there. And the second business is the work with mid-sized companies to create employers from them, so that they have an easy an easy way to get new talents in their company and to have a really develop a good leadership and all those things which are necessary to have a really successful mid-sized company in completely different branches. So there's no connection with agriculture anymore. That's our scientific organizations, um, consulting companies, completely different branches.
And it's so interesting to listen and hear about your journey. I know I had a couple of conversations with you, from farming
Mhm.
to future of work. I think literally you also adapted a human-centric approach, I should say. And I was reading
Hmm.
about one of
Yeah.
your blogs. You mentioned the heart gives the direction, and the brain finds a way.
Hmm.
And it just
Yeah.
stuck with me. It's quite amazing. I love the line that you mentioned. Um, so, where did you get the inspiration to take that freedom and finally say, okay, I think I
Hmm.
don't want to follow that conventional path set by my parents, I mean, coming from the family, guessing a very conventional family, I guess, an Orthodox family. Finally, finding that freedom for yourself. Where did you get the courage from?
That's a very good question. And well, of course, there are always a lot of people with an important role in a special situation in my life and probably in everyone's lives. Um, it was an aunt, for example, who she gives me an insight in um, another perspective of life because she lived in a big city in Germany and took me uh, as a little boy who always saw only very rural structures before to the big cities and showed me Düsseldorf and Cologne and another level of life. That was very important, of course. But I think the most important thing is to you recognize there is an idea or a question in yourself, and then there will be an opportunity to get something more and information, inspiration. And it was always the challenge to believe and to trust this personal impulse, this idea, and to go out a little more than you would have felt comfortable with. So that famous zone of comfort, to leave that always a little bit, and to challenge yourself and to trust yourself to do a step just to find out what's behind this corner, behind this wall. And from today, looking back, I would encourage myself to be faster, quicker in trying out, more courageous in trusting yourself and not hesitating so long, not waiting so long. And today I'm much faster in trying out something new, and it feels quite comfortable to um, expand as a normal attitude. But that was quite hard to develop. And on the view back, it took a lot of time to do some steps. But even this one, I think it's very important to have a kind of self-love.
Yeah.
And if you need the time and if you don't have the courage to do it faster, then it's probably just the right speed for yourself and for your soul and for your life. And um, the more you trust yourself, the more you experience situations like will never forget when I was 24, I did a 6 weeks journey to the United States and Santa Barbara in an English course. I could do that with a funding from an organization, and then I stood at the ocean on the other side of the world, and I will never forget that feeling. If I can do being here today, I could be everywhere in the world because I'm already on the other side. And that was such an important um, situation. I never forgot that. Um, and sometimes it's just a spark of an idea in a moment which you don't really recognize in the moment, but which have um, a following impact, which is tremendous. So, for example, may I just talk one story? I just found it very funny, and afterwards, I have when I did my seminars very early with 22, 23, 24. Besides my studying, I did a lot of seminars with farmers on creativity, on time management, on learning methods, things like that. And we managed that we could go to Austria, or a neighbor country. So we flew there. That was for me as a farming boy, that was a great experience. I go to the airport, took a plane and flew to Graz, and then did a 2-day seminar in Graz, and then I flew back. So I was so impressed by this experience to be able to fly. Never, farmers don't fly on holidays, for example. So we didn't experience that before. I was so impressed by that, and then I landed in Frankfurt again. And then in front of me, there was a very big guy with suit and his back, very businessman. I only saw the background, the back of this guy. And he was asked from a service person from the airline, any connecting flights? And he just said, Bangkok. And he said Bangkok, like I would have talked about my neighbor village in such a normality. He said Bangkok. I was so impressed. I was so impressed just to fly once from Graz to Frankfurt, 1 hour. And this guy just said Bangkok. And to my 50th anniversary, I gifted to myself my first traveling to Bangkok. Because that was 30 years later. But I never forgot this situation and this normality in the way to speak on traveling to Bangkok. And today I'm every January I like to go to Southeast Asia, to Thailand. That's my most famous vacation for myself, and I like to start in Bangkok. And I know so many rooftop bars in Bangkok and nice places, and a few people I like to meet there again. And it's so unbelievable. From that point 30 years ago, I couldn't have imagined that it will be a very common situation to go to Bangkok. I leave the airport in Bangkok and I don't have to look how to come to the city center. I just go to the train and I have my 10 baht coins in my pocket, and I do it like people are living there. So, and I'm real proud on that. And it's a little bit, yeah,
That's
like
so,
it is and like it developed.
yeah, that's amazing. And just from somebody saying Bangkok, you actually made it part of your regular itinerary. And that's amazing. Something that you probably wouldn't
Mhm.
have imagined at that point. You actually, that's so inspiring, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, there are happening so many small situations. You meet people, there are conversations. You scroll on your Instagram or LinkedIn feed, whatever. But the important thing is to have a sensitivity for the resonance in your own soul, and where are the things you like to say, I would like to discover this, and what do you really not only see as an idea, but make the decision to try this out and to make an experience and to um, develop your life in a way you probably don't know before what will happen.
And I get a real sense of, the touch of spirituality that you bring in whenever I speak to you. There is something very
Mhm,
deep that hits me hard after I speak to you. And you mentioned a couple of things that I would like to highlight. Okay, I know you
mhm,
mentioned like as a passing statement, but I was like deeply listening. You mentioned self love,
mhm,
trust, soul, life, experience, and believing in
mhm.
yourself. What not? I mean, like, where did you get this spiritual connection? Did you actually already go on a spiritual journey already, or is that something that you look for experiencing it when you're traveling by yourself? What happens during that workations?
Mhm.
I'm curious to know.
Yeah. Hmm. The one thing is, I think whole life is a spiritual journey. And of course, I did a lot of things like seminars, coaching programs, meditation weeks, 1 week without speaking at all. Very, very interesting. But there's a lot of, let's say, hard work on my professional topics. So I recognize very early that there are people, they have a positive mindset. They have an attitude with optimism, even if they have a very um, hard situation. And there are others always complaining and always have a bad mood. And the reason must lie between the ears. So that's sure. And I I dealt as long as I can remember, I dealt with the question, what can I do? What is the difference between successful people and companies and those who are complaining and not succeeding? And so therefore, I learned a lot of things about personal behavior, about leadership, about how to bring a group of people together to a common vision and a strategy. And I did a lot of moderation and facilitation of leadership teams, from organizations, from companies, from regions with people in completely different circumstances. And I learned a lot how, you could say, how easy it could be to bring people together when you emphasize the strength, the common interests, the common vision, and so the potential to find solutions to make the world a little bit better. So that's, of course, quite pathetic, but in the end, that's the question: how can we create an impact which leaves the world, or your part of the world, a little bit better than before? And I'm really have a kind of I feel a kind of a mission to try to do something valuable, what has an impact. And the big topic I took myself is the world of work, and the smaller area, of course, is the specific company I'm working with. It's my own company. We try to do a lot of things in a very good way. So it's an example how it's possible to work in a small company. And I try to increase the situation on the companies and organizations we work with. And I try to create an impact with my speeches and my book and all the content I try to give, because the more experience I have, I discover the more I can add value. And it's just sometimes a sentence or a message or the right question which can make a difference. And I'm really grateful for this experience of getting more potential for an impact with people who like to work with me, and vice versa.
I know you have such a busy schedule every day. I know you write a lot. You're a regular blogger in
Mm-hmm.
German, and then you have your own podcasts, and you're an author. I know you have a
Mm-hmm.
book, right? You have one or two
Mm-hmm.
books, I believe. You
2 books.
already two
Yeah.
books. And do you want to show the vocation thing? I love the poster on your book, and I'm going to also share the link in the description of this
Yeah.
podcast as well. But how cool is that? Like you're actually showing, you can work and you can have a vacation, and at the same
Yeah.
time, you can have time for yourself to come up with fresh ideas and fresh perspectives. I love that concept. I really love that concept.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
tell me, like, what is the main message from the book that you would like to share with the audience and with the leaders who are still thinking in the traditional ways?
I would like to differentiate it a little bit, because for people who thinking on your own, for creating a kind of a more flexible life and working style, um, it's just, if it's possible to work from everywhere, what is technically for every work which can be done from an office, that's possible. Why don't we think about circumstances for life and work where our soul is really happy, and our heart is shining, and then try to do that not for a whole year, but just more for 1 week or for 2 weeks, and try to experience that way of more freedom. That's the one thing. And of course, the other side is you have this freedom, but then you have the duty and the responsibility to be as productive as if you would come to the office. That is the important thing for everyone who is not self-employed, but as an employee of a company. So if we want our companies to be more flexible, and so flexible to offer us the opportunity to work from wherever we want to, then of course it's a responsibility for everyone to create this own productivity. And that's a journey. So can be quite hard for some people to work in the circumstances where other people are on holiday. So you have to love your work and be very clear in the reason why you are at a special place, and to have a good structure and self-management in, am I working now? Am I productive? What is the right balance between being focused on my work and being inspired from the beach or the party life around? And I think people have much more freedom than they appreciate themselves, because we have to relearn to get out of those strong patterns people have learned how we have to be as a good worker, for example. So it's quite hard to train people that it's okay to have a 2 hours lunch break, to see the light even in winter, and go out and do sports and come back and work later and be much more productive. But it's quite hard to unplug, let's say like this, to unplug the own brain and this difficulties we have between our ears, because we've learned how we have to be. So I hope it was quite long, sorry.
Okay. And it actually makes sense to me. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I have worked in the US, as I mentioned you earlier also. I worked in the US, one of the countries, as you would agree, long hours of work, very short number of holidays and vacations that we can take. Unlike Europe, I know I used to have a lot of colleagues in Europe, having worked in Ericsson, right? So in summer, hardly anybody used to be available. So they used to say, "Oh, summer is coming," and then they used to have their vacations and all of that. And then after I moved back to India, here it's a completely different story. If I actually go and say, "Okay, fine, you can take a lunch break," I try to be flexible with my teams and all, but the trust factor, as you said, it has to come from within, right? I mean, if I can be flexible as a boss, but the discipline, the management, and making sure the work is done, even though we're giving the flexibility, that I think is a whole another story. And that kind of
Yeah.
culture is not an easy thing to develop, I believe. What do you say?
And that's exactly what we have to work on, I believe. Because if I address the leaders of the companies, then the message is very clear. Trust your people, give them freedom, and you will get productivity and engagement.
Yeah.
So it's such a strong message if companies tell their people and trust their people and say, you can work wherever you want.
Yeah.
And companies have to learn a lot on that. They have to learn how leadership on distance works. It must not be a disadvantage for people, for their career, for the team, if people work from somewhere else. That's just another competence on leadership which has to be developed. And it's a management task to develop a common work culture, hybrid culture, and not to do such stupid things like you have to come for 3 days a week in an office again. Those return to office policies, that's quite stupid. It's much more intelligent to develop with the people, with the interests of the company, of the customers, a concept which works for that specific company. And I think the most important thing is to get rid of those old patterns in mind on leadership, on how we work. And when I had the opportunity to speak on Are You Ready for the Future of Work at the PSAI convention, that was for me quite important to focus on that topic, because in an age of AI and robots and more automatization, it will be more and more important that we are really well-organized, self-organized human beings, which are in the mood to create that what's really human. And we have to get rid of so many old-fashioned patterns, which probably were right 200 years ago. But we have so many leaders still sticking in old long time learned patterns in their mind on leadership, on the way of the attitude of life in different generations, modern work possibilities. And we have to de-learn those old things to get the space for a more modern way of looking on the world of work and the world at all. And I deeply believe that's even possible for people 50 years and older to change their mind and not to stick on a mood like, oh, I have only a few more years. I can cry when I hear things like that, because we need the experienced people, but we need them with an update in their brain.
Correct. And I think along with the employers, there is a lot of mindset shift that needs to happen
Mhm.
with the actual workforce, right? If they really want to be
Yeah.
successful in their careers and leverage the learning that they can get from the peers and all of that, it doesn't have to happen only in person. I think it is probably the discipline that they need to develop and that they have to learn, that they have to build that trust in both
Mhm.
directions, right? So it's quite interesting,
Mhm.
and I would like to learn more about the work that you do in terms of workshops. Is it only for the leaders, or is it about the workforce also? Do you train them, like how you can get that flexibility
Mhm.
workplace?
There's a lot possible. Of course, there is a main focus on the owners and leaders of companies, just because those are the people who have the biggest impact on the
Right.
reality in companies. So, but if I do, for example, keynote speeches, or I really love settings like 4 hours or one day with even with bigger groups, so that can be, for example, things with the whole company. So I like to do, for example, strategy days. That could be with the complete workforce of a company or the leadership team on topics like getting the right mindset for the future of work. A lot of experience. So I love to facilitate things with a lot of dialogue, a lot of different settings in small groups, impulses with the whole auditorium.
Yeah.
And so in those shorter settings, everything is possible. I would like from 10 people to 1,000 people. In the long term consulting, it's of course normally the leadership team, or we often define a kind of a people strategy team, which should be a mix from human resources, marketing, the executive level, and then we put other people to that team like we need them to create a consistent people strategy and to realize that, and to transfer it in real life.
Yeah, yeah, totally understood. And I completely agree with what you said. It's about the mindset shift. Mainly, it has to come
Mhm.
from the leaders and also the trust that they can build by
Mhm.
encouraging them. At the same time,
Mhm.
don't have to compromise on a loss for the business. It's actually the other way around.
Yeah, of course. I think so. I can't work with every leader because it's a necessity that there must be leaders who really take it for serious to have a goal of the company to
Mm.
serve people, to have really in mind that the people working in that company and with that company have a good development, and they're not only function to do the work, but it must be a goal of the company to have happy people in their company. And of course, you need the right people, a picture of people, the right attitude at the executive level. If that's not the case, we don't start to work.
Yeah.
So if you train the normal people in the company, and their
Yeah.
leaders don't don't support what we're getting out of that workshops, people will get frustrated. So I just try to figure that out before and don't start. There's
Understood.
so many nice things to do on this world. I don't like to work in a dead end road.
That's nice. So thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that, Steph. And before we close, I have one rapid fire round. It's going to be a fun round. I
Hmm.
would like to learn more about you and your ways of working or your fun things in a
Hmm.
nice, quirky way. So, are
Okay.
you ready?
Okay.
So, tell me if you like forest or a beach for your vacation.
Beach in front, but at home it's the forest.
Okay, so you're
I don't
enjoying
have a beach at home, so that's
it.
both.
Um,
Hmm.
a place that felt like home, away from home. Any country that you visited?
Um, the beach restaurant at on Koh Samui, where I like to have breakfast at the beach
Mm.
all
Which
year
one?
in January, a few days.
Which place did you
Sorry,
go? Which place felt like
that's
home?
a very special in one hotel in Chaveng and Koh Samui at the island of Koh Samui.
Okay,
Where I like to have breakfast. And I wrote about that in my book too. And a second one would be in Koh Phangan. There's a cafe Ocean Vibe with a great view in the beach. Yeah, that's a kind of, yeah, like coming home.
like I mean, okay, nice. Um, one place that had a significant impression and has changed you.
In the moment, I really would say that place at in California because I was very young there, and it was my first really big journey,
Santa
which
Barbara.
opened up. If that's possible, yes, if that's possible, everything is possible.
Nice. That must have really given you a strong impression about the power of positivity. Yeah.
But there's another one. So I grew up on a farm. We have cows, 24 cows. That was our business. And I remember one situation. I walked in the stable, and I thought, okay, I could do that the next 30 years. I would know what to do, but that's not my way. That was a moment and a clarity in that moment, and the decision was made.
Amazing. So, if I may ask you, what is your
Mhm.
next perfect vacation place that you're thinking about in 2027?
In the moment, I really must say I don't know because I'm very open minded and I haven't fixed my next vacations in 2026. But
Okay,
if you ask for 2027, then it will certainly be the start in the January again in Thailand with Bangkok, Koh Samui, Koh Phangan as my triple area. And that's because that's really, yeah, soul relaxation and self-developing and thinking about the year. So that's a fixed point.
nice. Very nice. One last question. One thing travel has taught you, which is very new and you didn't have that experience in your hometown.
I are even more sensitive for my inner impulses and intuitive ideas when I'm traveling. And I think the most important experience on traveling alone, that's important. You have to travel alone, not with family, spouses, friends, because then you're focused with other people. If you're traveling alone, you experience everything in the world, everything of your recognition of the world you have with you. And is there anything in the outside which resonates with you or where you get angry or unsecure, that's not a part of outside. It's just everything is inside your mind. So it's such a great experience for personal development if you go completely out of your normal circumstances and you just recognize everything is in my mind, and that's the place where I can change nearly everything.
I resonate with you deeply, Stefan, and we talked about it also. The Trailblazers journey.
Mhm.
And you're like an inspiration for me because you do a lot of solo travel, which I aspire to do more than before. So Thank you so much for keeping it so natural, so grounded, and so inspiring, I should say. And thank you for sharing what you do, how you came about it, and describing about your journey. It was an awesome experience just listening to you, like always. Thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. Stefan, before we close,
Yeah.
any comments that you want to share with the audience?
I just want to say thank you very much for having me here and for the opportunity for this very personal talk. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate your hospitality and the great dialogues we had before. So that was really fun to be here. I really like to do that. Um, one message would just be trust your impulses, trust your intuition, and go step by step, and then be surprised how far that can take.
Awesome. That's so cool what you just said. And before I forget, I know you
Mhm,
visited India for the very first time, and you've been at the Professional Speaker Summit and an awesome talk, by the way. And that is
mhm,
where you mentioned that you got an opportunity to come to India for the very first time.
mhm,
Can
mhm.
you share one thing that you learned from your experience being in India? Something that felt like, oh wow, that is cool, or vice versa, or whatever it is.
There's so many top aspects, and the speeches on. There's a video you made possible to have that, so that's on my YouTube too from this speech. Um, I think the most important thing was the hospitality and um, to getting an idea how huge not only our world but India is, and yeah, how dynamic the development is. So it was really, it opened so many doors. I just don't have the time to go through all those doors, but I'm quite sure there will be a longer, really Indian journey to get to learn more about the country. There were so many really inspiring connections with great people, and that was really the most important impression.
Yeah.
Great hospitality, inspiring people, very supporting conversations. Great.
Yeah, and I'm feeling very grateful to PSAI and the PSS, which connected both of us as well. And thank you so much, Stefan. I'm looking forward, and I hope you make India as another stop from Bangkok each time you plan for your
Of
vacation.
course.
Yeah, yeah,
That's possible. I really like to come back again and to come more often.
yeah. There's so much to explore in India for sure. Yeah, but thank you so much, Stefan.
Great.
It's been an honor to have you on this podcast. For those who are listening, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. You just have to keep moving. And like Stefan has mentioned, trust yourself, keep going, and it's okay to enjoy your time the way you want to, right? Thank you so much. Signing off. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sandhya. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.